We're finishing up this sidewall for a track tunnel with no sidewall ventilation. We started with everything on this side. We put all of our hoops, our sidewall hoops on with our rollers. We secured our sidewall purlin in place. Then we flipped the whole assembly, and from the other side we went ahead and we put our double plastic attachment channel on. One thing that was really important is when we put on our double plastic attachment channel is we slid in our 1/4 inch by 1 inch hex bolts. We slid these into the back of the channel. You need to make sure that you do that before you secure the double plastic attachment channel to the hoops. After that was done, we went ahead and flipped the end wall again, and then we came back through and we snugged down all of these bolts. They're 1/4 inch bolts, so we use a 7/16 deep socket. You can use an impact to start it, but I definitely wouldn't tighten it with an impact. There's so much force, it could just suck it right through this aluminum. So we did is we started to snug them up with the impact, and at the end we just tightened it by hand with a wrench. Another important thing here is that since this bolt will spin, is that we tried to make sure we pulled the pipe strap up so that when we tightened it, that bolt wouldn't rotate with respect to that. Now that we've got that all in place, we've got our sidewall purlin in place, it's where it needs to be. Our double plastic attachment channel is in place where it needs to be. We've got our pipe straps in. We added a self-tapping screw into our pipe straps. We put our sidewall corner brace in. We can put the first one in on the ground. The next one we already have a brace band ready for from when we put it up. We've got our self-tapping screws and our brace bands. Our sidewall door is installed. We've got our latch installed with our sidewall door to keep it in place. This is ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it lifted up, put it on the track. We're going to keep track of exactly where the end of the building is going to go. And then we'll put some brace bands on temporarily to have some angle braces that'll hold the sidewall up. And then we'll get ready to start putting up the frame. We're finishing talking about the sidewalls for buildings with no sidewall ventilation that are on tracks. So right here we now have our frame up, and we can talk about some of the finishing details for this sidewall. Since there is no sidewall ventilation, basically the roof plastic comes down, it comes over the sidewall hoops, and then it goes on to this metal baseboard. This is double plastic attachment channel, then we built our whole sidewall and assembly on the ground. So basically everywhere on the outside there are 2 self-tapping screws that are holding this double plastic attachment channel to our hoops. On the inside we've got our pipe straps that are being held in with 1/4 inch bolts that we slid into the channel before we assembled it. Our pipe straps also screwed to our sidewall hoop. This sidewall happens to have a sidewall door, so this was a little bit different. We had to make sure that all of our brace bands were installed for various different applications before our sidewall door was installed. So we have a brace band up top for the top of our sidewall corner braces. We've got a brace band here that's 3 feet off the ground for where our cable anchor goes, and then we have 2 brace bands for our sidewall purlin and 2 brace bands for our double plastic attachment channel. On the other side of the door, we also had to make sure that we put a brace band in place. It's right behind this spot right here for our end wall. So depending on the different end wall design, there'll be different number of brace bands that hold that in place. On the bottom of the sidewalls, we put in a 3/8 by 4.5 inch forged eye bolt for our exterior anchors. So we used a yoke-to-yoke turnbuckle to attach these, so that eye bolt is what allows us to attach that. Typically our exterior anchoring kit would have a forged eye bolt every 24 feet on the outside. Since we have a 48-foot structure, it'd basically be the 2 outer corners in the center. Because we're on an island and we get a lot of wind here, we opted to put an exterior anchor every 12 feet. So we added some additional forged eye bolts and earth augers. So now that we've got all the eye bolts in for our exterior anchors, we also made sure that we had all of our eye bolts for our interior anchors. So based on our interior anchor locations, we wanted to make sure there's an eye bolt on both sides of the sidewall hoop that goes down and ties to our interior anchors for our V-truck. The reason that we have right here 2 forged eye bolts is because of our sidewall door. When there is a sidewall door, everything just gets shifted down 6 feet. So because our door was here, our sidewall corner braces got shifted down by a hoop, and also our first anchor, which would usually be here if you don't have a sidewall door, was shifted down and is now in between hoops 2 and 3. That forced us to have to drill another hole for a forged eye bolt. If you don't have a sidewall door, there'd be 1 bolt facing in this direction, and this bolt would be right over here, and it would just move that anchor over. So basically, when you don't have sidewall ventilation, it really simplifies the sidewalls a lot. It is complicated in this case by the sidewall door, but the roof plastic comes down, goes all the way down to your double plastic attachment channel, and then to make up the gap between the double plastic attachment channel and the ground, When this plastic comes down, goes into this channel, there'll be a flap right here, and we'll put sandbags on top of it, and then I'll seal the bottom. We can go over here to the other side just to give an example of what the sidewall looks like when there is no sidewall door. Everything is basically repeated. We do have, we're getting ready to put on plastic, so we've got some duct tape here that's getting ready for it, but when we do have a seam for 2 pieces of double plastic attachment channel, we've got screws for each piece going into the hoop. We're able to do that because we got our spacing right, and if your spacing isn't right, you can also put a splice plate here, and that will help make up that, that seam as well. We're getting all those sharp edges taped before we put on plastic. If we go over here, we can see an example of what the sidewall looks like without a sidewall door. Our sidewall corner braces go here from the top of basically hoop 1 down to the bottom of 3, and then we have our purlin and our double plastic attachment channel come all the way to the end of our sidewall hoop. This is an example where the anchor goes. It goes in between the first and second unit. This one is attached with a brace band, and this one over here goes to our forged eye bolt, and then we repeat the process down the rest of the sidewall. So that's basically how you put together your metal sidewalls when there's no sidewall ventilation.